Welcome to the Living Day by Day show. I am your host, Minister Lakiba Wallace, along with my co-host, Pastor Yolanda Snipes. And today, we're going to be dialoguing about dealing with grief. We have the awesome opportunity to interview another co-host of ours, that's Dr. Renee Sunday, about dealing with grief. She's well-rounded, intellectually sound, anointed, and ready to bring you an avenue of information, an avenue of education, and an avenue of inspiration. Dr. Sunday, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome. Talk a little bit about who Dr. Sunday is.
Yes, I'm Dr. Renee Sunday, and I've been practicing anesthesia for about 14 years in the Atlanta area. And I'm the CEO of Sunday Publishing Company, and I'm the author of Sunday Grief MD.
And you know, every time we hear that someone has passed, you know, there's always somebody in our family or a friend or a coworker that we may encounter that is going through grief. And so all too often I hear people talk about grieving should be, you know, maybe 30 days or 90 days or grieving after a year, you should be over that loved one who just passed. And so talk a little bit about, is there a time frame for someone to get over grief?
Well, first of all, everyone experience grief differently. My grieving process will be different from yours, and also it's yours. And we can't really judge if someone takes longer than the other. Some people is, a week, 2 weeks, a month, or even a year. But actually, most medical professionals say if we beyond 1 year, that we need to seek out some medical advice.
And you know, all too often you may have someone who is going through the grieving process, but they're also going through a phase of depression. And sometimes the people who are around you, the people who are most close to you, can't help you through that phase. And so what would you say to that group of people who might be, you know, they're in the grieving process, but they're also in a depressed stage? How do they deal with that, and how do they come out of that?
Well, first of all, you also go through several stages. And me personally, spiritual, physical, and also emotional. One day I was depressed. The next day I was happy. One day I had junk food all day. The next day I was, eating healthy. And, at night I would cry, and, Jesus would just rock me to sleep. The most important thing to realize is a process. You just take one day, just like the show. You'll live one day by day. One day it'll be all fine, and it's okay to miss them. I mean, that's okay. But the most important thing is you have to renew your mind. You have to renew your mind. You actually have to meditate on the word daily. I'm actually have a Christian background. And so I knew I had to renew my mind, because I know my brother doesn't have to worry about any of the stress, pain, or sorrow of the world. He's enjoying heaven. And so you have to also apply practical things. You have to pamper yourself. You have to just look out outside the window to see, all God's great creation. And you just have to enjoy life.
And I'm so glad that you alluded to that, because I think all too often when you're in that state of depression or you're in that state of grieving, you really don't understand the importance of renewing your mind. And we know the Bible says that, we need to renew our mind. That's in Romans 12:2. And so I was just so elated to hear you say that is part of getting out of the grieving process and out of the depressed state, is to renew your mind. So that was very well said.
Dr. Sunday, speaking of your book, what was one of the challenges of writing this book, and coming from both a professional and personal?
Yes, well, the most important thing, actually, when I went into my brother's room, I couldn't disconnect from being an anesthesiologist to a sister, because at this time I'm a sister, I'm not an anesthesiologist. Right. So it did take me a minute to disconnect from that. I went to his bedside and I said, Junior, that's what we call him, Junior. And I'm here. He shook my hand, and that's where I actually say I'm not an anesthesiologist anymore. Okay. I'm actually a sister. I disconnected, and we enjoyed the time we had with him while he was there. And that was very important.
Okay, and what are some ways that friends and colleagues could assist someone going through that process?
Yes. Well, that is very important. That actually what helped our family through the grieving process. Me personally, I took off days at work, and my sister did as well, just so we could be together and bond together and actually help each other through the process, through meditating on the word, through just making sure we were doing our daily activities of eating right and just proper sleep. So it's important to have a net group or someone that you can go to if you need some extra help.
Okay, and what are some ways that we can assist children? Because a lot of times we focus on the adults, but how can we help children get through that process?
Yes, that's very important. Kids actually can get real quiet and not say anything, or they may act out. The most important thing is to be there for them. If they want to talk about it, don't force them to talk about it. You actually have to have a conversation with them and let them know what has happened, the process of it, and let them know that, it's a process. Don't beat themselves up. And they actually are particular counselors that specifically train in children in this situation.
Well, are there some indicators that we should look for when it may be time for us to get that additional counseling for our children?
Yes. If they're actually trying to harm themselves or harm someone else, that is very important. That's also true if it's an adult. You need to seek a medical attention very quickly.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, if you're just tuning in, you're listening live to the Living Day by Day show. I am your host, Minister Lakiba Wallace, along with my co-host, Pastor Yolanda Snipes. We're interviewing the awesome, well-rounded, another co-host of the Living Day by Day show, none other than Dr. Renee Sunday, and we're talking today about dealing with grief. So if you are dealing with grief, or you know someone who is dealing with grief, I encourage you to make sure that you keep it locked, we like to say, here on the Living Day by Day show via AIB TV. We're going to go into a commercial break, but we will be coming right back. Stay tuned. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Minister Lakiba Wallace, TV personality of the Living Day by Day show. And to my right, guys, is America's top anesthesiologist, co-host Dr. Renee Sunday. And to my left here is the well-rounded Pastor Yolanda Snipes. We're coming today to let you know that the Living Day by Day show is going to be broadcasting live, guys, every Wednesday at 7 a.m. on AIB TV. So we want to make sure that you keep it locked, guys, every Wednesday at 7 a.m. for an amazing show on the Living Day by Day TV show. Keep it locked, guys. AIB TV, 7 a.m. every Wednesday. Be blessed. Welcome back to the Living Day by Day show. I am your host, Minister Lakiba Wallace, along with my co-host, Pastor Yolanda Snipes. And today we are talking with none other than another co-host of the Living Day by Day show, Dr. Renee Sunday. And today's topic, as mentioned earlier, is dealing with grief. Dr. Renee Sunday wrote a book, as you can see it right here, entitled Sunday's Grief MD. And Dr. Sunday, I want you to talk a little bit about the emotional response to grief. We all have emotions. I have to keep my emotions in check sometimes, especially when my son swiped my ATM card when he's supposed to, but that's another show. But talk a little bit about how do you know someone is responding emotionally to grief?
Well, first of all, it's a whole spectrum. You can feel angry, you can feel guilty. One day you're depressed, the other day you're fine. It's actually a range or a spectrum that you can actually go through during the grieving process. And actually at that time, it's actually okay. The most important thing, of course, if a person makes sure they're not hurting themselves, make sure they're not, having, hallucinations, thinking and seeing things that's not there. But going through the immediate grieving process, emotions can be a whole gamut. It can be angry, sad, overly happy. It's a whole range that can apply in that situation.
I also read in your book, too, that there is a physical response also to grief. And so would you say that you find in your studies and in your research that some people have even committed suicide as a result of going through the physical response to grief?
Yes, that has occurred. The most important thing, like we just said, the emotional. Whatever you think in your mind, be it negative or positive, it actually feeds on your body. We actually, from the medical world, it's actually hormones that actually connects the two. So if you're thinking negative all the time, that actually feeds on your heart and your body, and soon you're going to actually be doing something negative. And likewise, if we encourage people all the time to positive things, we actually going to have that in our heart, and we're going to actually do positive things. The most important thing, those tie together. So we try our best to do things to encourage ourselves to make a positive response, because more negative, you may end up having a negative situation.
So how do you bring someone back? Someone who they're so far into the grieving process that no matter what a family member or a friend has said to them, they are just deeply in. I mean, emotionally, they're just all in terms of being depressed, in terms of just being not really wanting to live anymore. So it's hard sometimes when you're not in the medical field to be able to know what to say, to be able to reel that person back in. So what would you say to someone who is listening right now? They're having difficulties trying to encourage that family member or that friend to come back to a state of normality. Is there a certain group of words, or, is there a phrase or something that you say to be able to encourage someone back to life?
Well, the most important thing to realize is a process, as we continue to say, one day at a time. One day you're fine, the next day you just feel like you don't want to do anything. Encouraging words are very important. If they need medical help, that's very important. Sometimes it takes a person that's not part of the family, not part of the village, to actually assist them. So I would as our word says, all things work together. We don't understand a lot of things that goes on in life, but we have to trust God and realize that all these things will work out. We know my brother's in heaven enjoying himself, and we will see him again.
Mm-hmm.
And what would be something that we should encourage, and also something that we may need to discourage? A lot of times you hear individuals speaking about different dreams they're having about that person that may have passed, and they kind of get obsessed with it. So what would be some of those things we should encourage, but also some things we should discourage?
Yes, that's important. That goes back what is positive and negative.
Okay.
It's okay to have memories, the good memories, but if you start, excessively doing things that's not appropriate, let's say when you go to the funeral home, you don't want to leave the funeral home,
right,
and you want to stay there. That's kind of not a good situation. You need to realize that you need to celebrate their life, the important things, the things they've done in life, and we need to remember we will see them again. But if you see a person that actually is doing negative things, and like we continue to say, the whole important thing is support. If you don't have the family, you reach out to someone in your church, the community, and of course in the medical field.
And then we've talked about people going through the process, but what about those people that are in denial? How do we address that? Because there are times when there are deaths that are a surprise, where that person may have not been sick, but it could have been a car accident or something like that, and they just refuse to deal with it. What is the proper way to deal with that?
Yes, well, like myself, my brother, I saw him a week before, actually talked to him, and we had texts each other the night before it happened. The thing is, you have to realize that the person is not there anymore.
Okay.
And that denial is part of the grieving process. Some people go through denial, and some people are angry because they didn't get a chance to actually say goodbye. That's again, we continue to say that through this interview, that support is very important. It's different means of a support group that you can actually deal with that denial, that guilty feeling. Because the most important thing, especially with the Christian background that I have in my family, we realize through our word that we will see them again in heaven when we all go to that place.
Okay, and that leads me into your chapter about spiritual response. How would you explain that, the spiritual response to death?
Well, you will, and in the word, Jesus will, when Lazarus passed. So it's okay to ask why. It's okay to cry. It's okay to go through those things because we are human.
Okay.
We're not perfect and we'll never be perfect. So it's okay to realize it's okay to go through that, but we still need to remember that we need to stay positive. We need to bring our word in and renew our mind daily and believe first what's in the word, and then we need to apply it to our life, and then we need to walk it out.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sunday. You are with us here at Living Day by Day with our guest and co-host, Dr. Sunday, and we'll be right back with AIB TV.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Minister Lakiba Wallace, host of the Living Day by Day show. Along to my right, America's top anesthesiologist, co-host, Dr. Renee Sunday. And to my left is another co-host, well-rounded, astounded, Pastor Yolanda Snipes. We want to let you know today that the Living Day by Day show is going to be airing live, guys, every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on AIB TV. We're going to be talking about a multitude of issues, life issues, marriage issues, teen issues, money issues. We're even going to talk about if your husband is cheating on you issues, if your wife might be cheating on you issues. We are going to bring it real right here on the set of the Living Day by Day show. So make sure you keep it locked every Wednesday, guys, at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on AIB TV. We want you to do what you do best. Facebook somebody, LinkedIn somebody, tweet somebody, Google Plus. Go ahead and knock on somebody's door, ring somebody's doorbell. Do what you need to do to let them know that every Wednesday, 7 a.m., keep it locked on AIB TV for an amazing segment of the Living Day by Day show. Be blessed. Welcome back to the Living Day by Day show. We're talking today about dealing with grief. I have some backup in the room today. That's none other than my co-host, Pastor Yolanda Snipes. We are interviewing together, guys. We're tag teaming on Dr. Sunday today about dealing with grief. And if you're out there and you're dealing with grief, or you know someone that is dealing with grief, I encourage you to make sure that you keep it locked right here on the Living Day by Day show via AIB TV, so you can get some information about how you can transition from one phase of grief into a level of normality. And I want to talk a little bit about, in this last segment of the Living Day by Day show, about how to bring it all together, how to bring the pain together, how to bring the trials, the tribulations, the issues, and all the issues that we might go through as we transition, as we're going through the grieving process. And so, Dr. Sunday, I want you to talk to the viewing audience a little bit more clear, a little bit more from a medical perspective. How can one bring it all together after they've gone through the grieving process? They've experienced the pain, the problems, the trials, the issues, all those things that we all are not exempt from. We will go through them one phase or another, one day or another. And so how does one really transition out of that?
Well, it's very important to acknowledge, one, that it's okay to go through the grieving process. But the most important thing to realize is not to get stuck in it. Mm-hmm. We have to move forward. And that's what we actually, in the book, it's a term called transition, as you said. And that's when you have a light bulb experience or you have a revelation that it's okay to move forward. Because we realized in my brother's situation, mm-hmm. I know he would want us to enjoy life.
Right.
So I said, wait a minute, my brother, he would want us to enjoy life and to accomplish our goals in life. Because that's what his motto. He was always saying that he was proud of me. Mm-hmm. And so when that light bulb came, I said, wow, I can't continue to do this. I have to move forward and transition. And I renewed my mind daily. And my family, we continue to read the word and apply it to our life. And then the practical things, enjoying and pampering ourselves, was very important.
Well, I want to jump around a little bit here. I want to talk about grieving from a marriage perspective. All too often, couples, they're married for a long time, and then you see that surviving spouse 30 days later, she got her a new boo or, he got him a new sweetie. And so is there a time frame, for a wife to find another husband or for a husband to find another wife? And if they do that in the 30-day plan, is that okay? Is that okay? Or do we do this 60, 90-day thing?
Now, that's funny. We have to make sure our family, I would talk it over with the family. The most important thing is to have peace. You can't go from one relationship to another just to fill that void.
Right.
That's not fair to the new person, and that's not fair to you and, of course, your family. Because someone in the family is not going to be happy.
Absolutely.
And others may be happy. But you have to have peace, and you have to give yourself time to grieve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And I'm looking in your book, and I've heard that there's no greater loss than for a parent to lose a child. And I see that you have a chapter regarding your mother and your father. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yes, my parents, they're Mr. and Mrs. William Sunday. Mm-hmm. I love them dearly. Actually, only thing I have known it's a Christian foundation. That's what I grew up in. That's what I knew. That's what I breathed, literally. But my mom was so amazing. She was the first one to say, when they told us we had to take my brother off life support, that he's enjoying heaven. He'll be in a better place. I know that's a cliche, but she really meant that, because someone in the family had to take that stand to move us forward, because we were all in shock. So she actually did that, and that was just so amazing. She said she wanted to go in and actually see him one more time.
Right.
And that was a very important moment for her, and as well for my father. And my father said, it's okay. He told the family it's okay. And that actually, I cherish that. And I actually, in the book as well, have written 2 poems that express what I saw in their eyes. People say, did they write it? No, this is what I viewed by seeing their actions and their behavior.
Wow. And you know what? Just thinking about it, that's probably a great response for people going through grief. Maybe writing that poetry, or even writing that goodbye letter to that person, I would say.
Yeah, that's very important. That's why at the end of the book we have a journal, because that's what really helped me and my family, is writing out your emotion, writing a love letter back to my brother, saying how much we loved him. And now when I go places, I always have his picture there. So he's so proud that I'm actually fulfilling my dreams.
And also, I mean, speaking of mothers and fathers, we also see times when there's young parents that may lose a child, and just that tension kind of separates the two. What are some indicators they need to look for before it just snowballs into to a bad ending, or even worse ending than dealing with that death of that child?
Yes, as we continue to say, it's very important that the family is there. The family really need to increase that bond, embrace each other. Because my mom said, it's nothing like losing your son. You can't even explain it. That's what she told me. And I would not understand that still now, because I don't have kids. But she said that's something that you can't even put an expression on. Because in my mom's situation, after me, the doctor told her not to have any more kids because of diabetes, etc. And my dad did, and he was wonderful. Everything worked out. But she said you can't explain that. But the most important thing she knows, he's in a better place and he's enjoying heaven.
Okay. And then one more question. Let's look at a professional perspective. What about employers that have employees going through this grief or the loss of a loved one? It's more than those 3 days of excused absence. What are some things that they can do to help that employee transition back to work?
Well, a lot of corporations now have a psychologist that's connected with their group. It's different support groups that's actually free. And actually myself, I'm actually doing seminars that people can come in, and actually we can do that on a corporation level, because it's a process. And if you hear from someone that's been through it, as we say, a testimony, you can see that they're transparent and they can relate. And that actually makes you feel better, so you won't feel like, oh, I'm crazy. I'm actually, somebody else went through that, and that helps you to move forward.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Sunday, we just want to say thank you so much for taking the opportunity to be on the set of the Living Day by Day show. Do you have any parting remarks for the viewers?
Yes. I want them to realize it's okay to go through the grieving process. The most important thing is not to get stuck in the process. Always look to friends and family, and of course the medical profession, to help you. And we always say that all things work together for the glory of God. And if you can contact me at any time, I have an email, sundaypublishingcompany@gmail.com, and my website is www.sundaypublishingcompany.com.
Awesome. Well, I hope and I pray that this show has been a blessing to you, to your family, and to someone who that you will have the opportunity to reach out to. We always slate these shows and gear these shows to be an avenue of information to the viewers. And so if you're out there today and you are going through grief, I want you to take the opportunity to contact Dr. Sunday, or you can feel free to reach out to myself, Minister Lakiba Wallace, as well as the co-host of the Living Day by Day show, Pastor Yolanda Snipes. We are here to be able to bring you an avenue of information, an avenue of inspiration, and an avenue of education. Well, we have had an amazing time on the set today. It has been a true joy to be able to bring this show today entitled Dealing with Grief. Make sure that you check out our website at www.livingdaybyday.net. I always like to end the show that we love you right here on the set of the Living Day by Day show, and you can't do anything about it. Be blessed.